I can see it, I just don't
I
know.
can move in all sorts of stuff. My computer's really old, but it's a really good computer. And I keep saying they're gonna end. So I keep moving everything too fast.
There's volume things clicking,
Yeah, every other device I have backed up.
so it looks like it's
It's
picking
so
up,
good
but
to
I don't know.
everything up. Every other computer's backed up. Every devices. That's what
It's
I
like
do.
when
It's
it's,
like, of course.
you're in a meeting at work and it's a different thing that's.
Hello?
Christians. J. I don't have
Okay.
it works on computer.
All right, now I think we're ready.
Well, I thought I picked the work session.
You did pick it because that's what's up.
Oh, okay, it's the icon at the bottom that says regular
Yeah,
meeting.
but you're okay.
I'm not worried about that. We are ready to go.
Okay, thank you. It is Monday, July 27th, and I would like to call this work session of the Tipp City Board of Education to order at 5:03 p.m. And we will begin tonight's work session with the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Stevens, could you call the roll, please?
Yes, ma'am. Mrs. McMurray,
Here.
Mrs. Dillard,
Here.
Mrs. Ernst,
Here.
Mrs. Plyman,
Here.
Mr. Thompson. Here. All present accounted for. We can continue the meeting.
Thank you. Next, I move to approve the agenda for tonight's work session. Is there a second?
Second?
Which one? Mrs. Plyman? Thank you. All right. Is there any discussion for the work session agenda? Okay, hearing none. Mr. Stevens, could you call the vote, please?
McMurray,
Yes.
Plyman,
Yes.
Dillard,
Yes.
Ernst,
Yes.
Thompson.
Yes.
The motion has passed. We will move on to our discussion items. First on the agenda is a follow-up regarding the spectator expectations and the City Park Stadium accessibility. We started talking a little bit about this at our last meeting. So, Mr. Moran, I'm going to yield the floor to you, sir.
So after last meeting and the priority of short-term, what could we be doing to provide access around City Park and even the softball stadium, because of the timeline, I talked to our attorney just to see what the timeframes could be in order to get something done, because if we were to do a normal bid process, it would take too long with the weeks and posting and things like that. So I did talk to them to see if it could be done. Their opinion, they spoke to me, even though it's been a known issue, it's still a safety issue, and that we could probably do that. So then I talked to the Miami Conservancy District, and because it is in a floodplain, so in order to do anything down there, you have to get their approval. Theirs is up to a 30-day permit, and they would need architect drawings to determine volume that might be taken out from the gravel and replaced with concrete or whatever we did. And that would need spec'd out for that. We also talked to got an estimate from the architect and from a concrete person, and you're looking at probably $450,000 or more to do that project. And with that, and with the timelines, there's just no way to get that done, from beginning of July to now. So that's really kind of where we stand. This would be something that if we wanted to do, we would go out and, select an architect to go out and, we have to get a survey for that. We'd have to do all those things, and then they would get all the details prepared to submit to Miami Conservancy District in order to get approval. There would probably, because I think we would be adding volume to the space, that there would be some requirements Usually, if you add volume to the space, you have to take it out somewhere else. But we don't own anything in the floodplain to do that with. But the city does have credits, and that's something that they had talked about before, even with the Tipp Pride, that we could use maybe some credits, but that would have to be worked out. I don't know how many credits. Apparently, the city has quite a few credits that might be able to be utilized for this, but it would still take those plans and those, the calculations to figure all that out to do that. So this would be something, if it could be done, I'd like to, a decision would need to be made probably at the beginning of the calendar year in order to have somebody in place that could do it maybe March, April, May. It wouldn't do it all at once, it'd be sections for that. So that's where that stands. We did talk about a couple different ways, the design would have to determine for ADA compliance, and we had a couple different options to do that on the, like some switchbacks that could be where the retaining wall is now. Could you have two switchbacks that would allow for people to go from the bleachers directly to the switchbacks to get up to the restroom concessions area? Or could you have to build up and maybe have a gradual leap from even the ticket booth, those that way. So there's a couple options that would have to be considered, but all that would have to be, based on compliance of ADA accessibility.
What questions do you have for Mr. Moran regarding, we'll focus on the stadium project accessibility improvement.
Is the city willing to help with any of the cost with this? Or is that just on our plate because of the contract?
The contract as is, it's all on our plate. Now, we could ask the city if they might be interested in that, but it would have to be something they'd be willing to do.
Are there grants available that could possibly?
It's tough for school districts to get those types of improvement grants, but that's something we would look at as well. We could look at as well, but based on being a school and based on demographics, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah.
We typically don't get a lot of grants based on the demographics of the community.
I do think, unless I've totally misread the room, that we're all aligned in the fact that this is probably necessary to do. And I think if the community understood that this would be the last sports season that they would really have to deal with it in its current state, I think the community would be excited and would get behind the improvements being made. So to know that the timeline that you said as you were talking was what was in my brain. Like, you could probably get this process started in January. And by March or April, you would have something going. That way it'd be done by the summer and then be ready for fall 2027, which I would personally be excited about, just knowing like this would kind of be the last soccer, football season that you'd have to kind of deal with in its current state. But the price is a little higher than I thought it would be. But I know that's just an estimate until you get like hard numbers.
Yep.
With as much concrete as and that's about where I thought it would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's $32 a yard right now,
Correct.
something like that. Pretty well.
So my question is, because the lease is the contract is a 40-year lease signed way before us, long time ago. So we can't get it, if we don't get it finished immediately before the sports season occurs, is my understanding from the lease, we are legally liable. So, I mean, I guess I'm asking what do we do in the meantime this season? Do we put up signage and say loose gravel? I don't know what's appropriate to make sure that.
I think some of the stadium standards and expectations will address some of those issues, but in terms of the ADA situation, I think that that's my biggest concern. Is there any other kind of flooring or matting you could put down to be able to provide temporary relief so that you could get people to key places? Are there, you know, I'm just thinking like, you know, we go certain places and there's mud and they don't want people walking through it, so they put together a boardwalk, or are there other types of surfaces that would provide a certain degree of accessibility? Or is that?
We can't do anything because
Yeah.
the conservancy, right? We can't add anything.
Yeah, I don't know what, like we put some thick mats to help get from the ticket booth to the concrete
Yeah.
strip that's
Right.
out by the fencing, and then to get over to the, I worry about putting stuff on the hill that wouldn't
Right.
fall down. So putting stuff on there would have to be, I mean, more of a permanent piece, I would think. I mean, we can look into that, but that would be, I think there would be some, I know there'd be cost to it, but I don't know the temporary, you know, if it's temporary, it's
Right.
probably not gonna stick, and that's
Right.
the
Right.
biggest issue. I don't want to become more, you know, putting a rug on something to make it, then it falls down. It's probably just as bad or worse.
Right.
But that's something we could look at. That's, you know, we've looked at that additional matting and things like that, and then trying to keep it clear of rocks and stuff as
Right.
people go by, but
Right.
it's not ideal.
Yeah. Is there any opportunity to go back to the city and renegotiate this contract?
We can always ask. I mean, I got something that the board is something that I think we need to have a clear understanding, what are we asking for?
Right.
Right, that would have to be something, this is what we'd like to do. And it goes to the, you know, the bigger, we're not gonna, you know, that's for next month, but what is the priorities? Is there other priorities that might make sense
Right.
to help that out?
And with the Conservancy District, are we just talking about the east side of the stadium where the bike path is? That we have to be concerned about
No,
going into their area?
It's all the way, it's like, there's a certain level, it's not, I don't believe it's everything, but it comes up to like the concession stand area. There's a certain level that's.
Oh, it's a floodplain,
It's a
I see.
floodplain.
Okay.
So anything that you add to that floodplain that takes that displaces volume for it to store, it has to be taken somewhere else. So it's the whole piece, almost all of it is. And if you were to put a building up, then it would obviously be a lot more displaced volume versus just, you know, on the ground.
Lydia, what are you thinking?
Well, I was thinking kind of the same thing that Katie was. I know that those to rent can be anywhere from $30 a day to $4,000 to purchase them per plate if you want to put something like that in. But I was thinking possibly if we could look into getting a temporary land use from the Conservancy to then start looking into temporary measures, especially if we can't get that looked into on a permanent basis until January. Because I went to the game and I'm fully functioning, able to walk perfectly well, and it's still, especially after the concession area, it's not great.
So I think one other thing I'll add is I think I'm agreeing with you. I think we're aligned that we need a facility that's ADA compliant for our community and for our students. I'd like to really be aware about the funding source. I think to me that still is something that we want to pay attention to, and so I'm grateful that we are getting interest on building funds. To me, that is a great opportunity to use some of that money for things that are not classroom construction, but that can offer an opportunity to provide meaningful improvement to our students and to our community.
Where would this money come from?
That would be determined by the board,
Okay.
you know. General fund, essentially it'd all be general fund monies, unless there were some of the contingencies from the bond. That's the only sources. Again, I think with a well thought out plan, I think fundraising could come into place for things. But that would have to be something that, to me, would need to be run by the district, and the district would have to be solely in charge of, but there needs to be a plan before going out to do that. And then if there's money, if the district has funds already do that, I think it's a whole lot easier to do that than from nothing. So,
Well, then I'll ask, how serious, because I think you had sent some information about possibly looking into out by the high school in the future. I guess it's just how serious are we about potentially looking into that? Because I would say find the minimum fix for the stadium, especially because it is not ours to own, to kind of retain some of those funds if we are really serious about looking out by the high school.
and those are all board decisions that, we'll talk about next month, but I think that all comes into play about that.
And I think we're all on the same page with that. So, but I think unfortunately with the cost of materials, and again, that's potentially what it is now. Who knows what it is next year? I think that keeping that number in the back of our brains high, just in case. But I think as far as legally and with the accessibility piece and just for our kids, right, in our community, to make this a safe place that everyone can come and enjoy, I think that we have a duty to make sure this is our property. I mean, I understand that the city owns it, but we are legally responsible for keeping it up. So I think we have a responsibility to do that, just like any other structure. So, but I mean, I think he's done a good job of writing some questions down. But yeah, there's a lot of steps that have to be followed. Other thoughts? Or should we just let Mr. Moran gather some information and get back with us? The temporary, if there's a temporary option, matting, the metal plating, if that's even an option.
When's our first home game?
Yeah, well, scrimmages start for soccer in a
Couple
week.
weeks, yeah.
2 weeks.
Week or two.
I think it'd be responsible to look into, like you said, some signage in the meantime, and
Just
obviously
a
talk to
warning,
people to
yeah.
Figure out exactly what's necessary to cover.
Just so that people know it is loose and to be careful. It'd be the same thing as if you put up for a wet floor. So I don't know if there's communication that we can give throughout the district and the weekly updates and say, please use caution, please be careful when you're, I mean, I think Cindy's right when we talk about the other stuff, but letting our community know, please be careful. So.
And our guests, right?
And our people visiting, yes. So, walking, yeah.
So really a plan of communication.
Communication is gonna be huge.
Different strategies for communication, whether it's signage, newspapers, flyers, whatever.
I think that'll help also with the community knowing we are aware of this, we're working on it. It's not just, we're not just leaving it to be an eyesore or to be a danger. We're working on it.
The softball area would be something I think we could still do this fall because it's not in the floodplain, we could just get that done, make sure we work through the city if there's
That'd
any
be great.
permits, but we could look at getting access to that right away. Still,
That's on the Hyatt complex.
yes.
Just to be clear, since
Yes.
there are softball fields out at City
Oh,
Park, which
the-
you're not talking about here.
We're talking about
On our
our high school softball facility. I know the sidewalk ends kind of where the concession stand dugout area is, and then it's gravel all the way to the bleachers. So we'd look at maybe doing something different, putting concrete there to make it accessible. That would be obviously a lot smaller scope
Yeah.
of work. So we'll work on that
Okay.
piece as well. You know, if there's a couple of board members that want to work together to talk about stuff with the city, then I think we need to have that happen as well. If we're looking, you know, what are the asks of the city and why would be important to even start the conversation.
And just to clarify, that would have to go through city council, or is that?
I would assume it'd have to go through city council. I'm pretty sure they had to sign off on the lease document,
Yeah.
so that would have to go through there if there's any changes, I would assume.
Okay.
So the mechanism for that, would that be like a committee that we would stand up so that we could have?
I would ask if there's a couple people that want to would like to meet with me, and then and you could
I would
then,
imagine it's part of the parks, isn't it?
That's what I was
City
wondering.
parks,
Go to
yeah.
parks
So, but
first.
It's kind of strange, their hierarchy, how they do things, the things that come to the Parks Board and that sort of
Yeah.
thing, but
I think if we came up with a plan, so this is the things we want to talk about and why, I would just talk to the city administrator, Mr. Mack, and then we would set up with who needs to be set up, whether it's the city council as a whole, or
Right.
a committee, or the parks.
so with the city, the city's plan for the parks, the big park
Master
plan,
plan.
the master plan, so are they already working with the Conservancy District?
They would have to work with anything. They're not doing a whole lot of addition to things.
I know there were some things like where the boat ramp is and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
But maybe that would be, I don't know, I would think that the city would be interested in getting a grant of some sort to aid in their, revitalization of the city parks with the master plan, and why wouldn't the stadium be part of it? So, I would hope that.
Yeah, for that, it would be, I think, important to understand what our requirements are, no matter where they're at. Like if our requirement is for a locker room of X size, that may or may not fit in a footprint, but knowing that our requirement is for a locker room that can accommodate X number of students, or an officials room, if there are requirements like that from the student side, that would be helpful as a basis.
there's no necessary requirement and besides how big your locker room has to be.
Right.
But you're looking at probably 5,000 square feet if you were looking to have everything you needed for a home locker room. You know, a 5,000 for laundry, for storage, for locker space, coaches, officials, restroom, showers, all that stuff would be pretty substantial.
That is a large space.
Yeah.
Because you're talking about maybe 5 or 6, five square feet per person. That's 100 kids. I mean, there's 100
Right.
kids and adults easily.
Right, so I think that's why I understand
Yeah.
what the requirement is, like whatever that is.
Yeah. Maybe you
For whatever
look at-
facility, whether it's out at the high school or at
Yes.
City Park, knowing what that requirement is.
Right.
Well,
is important.
I think, again, what you would need at the high school may not be the same thing you need at City Park.
Right,
The needs may be different based on the resources at the high school.
right, so if we know that we need a locker room to accommodate 100 kids, I hope we don't have a team that big, but,
Our football
a
team's
30,
big.
right, if we have a locker room that needs to accommodate 50 kids, and at the high school complex, we can accommodate that in the building. And at City Park, we would need to accommodate that outside. The requirement for a locker room to accommodate 50 kids remains the same.
Right.
Yeah. The locker room at the high school is where they currently use and practice right now.
Yeah.
So do they need, we wouldn't need to duplicate that
Right.
necessarily, is what I guess
Right.
my point.
Yeah.
So that would not be something that would be needed if there was something out at the high school.
And I think
So-
that we need to think about, just like, I think it was Lydia said, what needs to be done immediately versus, what is the long-term vision if we're looking to possibly go out by the high school with a structure? How do we, do we want to, how much do we want to put into the current stadium? Making it safe, absolutely. But, what else? I don't know.
I think we also need to look at possibly, with our lawyers, with looking at the lease agreement to update it if the lease agreement has been in place for so many years. I'm sure the language has changed. We need to look at that.
15, I think it's been
And,
15.
it's just something I think we should do. We should look at that language. And if we are looking at possibly building out, if the possibility is there to build out by the high school with a better facility, with locker rooms, with proper parking, with proper track and field, a much better place for our students, then maybe we need to look at a shorter timeline for this lease as well. We need to look at the legal aspects of this lease that we're in with the city and our responsibilities versus theirs.
So that's why we need, I think, a couple members to be part of that, to craft something that would make sense, or the things that we want to look at, and it's important to the board
It was
to take to city
signed.
council.
Yeah, it was signed in 2006 from the
That's 10 years ago.
10,
20.
20.
20. Oh,
We're
wow.
we're halfway through it. We're halfway.
20 years,
Yeah.
wow.
We're halfway through. Yeah.
So if you're interested, let me know. I'd be happy to set up some times to sit down and meet and review the document. And
Are there any other school districts that have this kind of relationship with the city where they're leasing their stadium or leasing a space like that? Is this a unique situation, or are there other?
well,
I don't know.
up in the Troy, I'm not sure how the Hobart Arena, the water park, and Memorial Stadium is. I think it's
Oh, yeah.
together,
Correct.
possibly.
Yeah, the
Okay.
rec for the Hobart and Troy, the aquatic park, I believe, are all managed together, and I believe
Yeah.
that the city is part of that.
Yeah.
But is the field? Does the school own that, or does the city own
I
that?
think the city owns it, but that is a good question to see how they manage that.
I don't
Same
know.
thing with like Newton. I was out there for
Mhm.
some events recently, and I believe that also they've got a community center.
Mhm.
They got local city community center, dual use for the city and for the school. So that's a good question.
I know that place. So they built that rec area.
Mhm.
It's basically a baseball, has baseball in the top, field house, the basketball courts and locker rooms. That there's a weight room that is community. Community. It is on their property, on the school's property, and it was fundraised in that way, to be that way, to make that happen. So there are some unique ones out there. I think Level MB did that work, and they also did one in Rushi similar to it as well.
Troy Christian has just broken ground on theirs
Yeah.
as well.
So those are all things that the small group can talk about and look at and provide resources to the board.
So just clarifying, after this conversation, Aaron, you're going to start to get some information on an architect, the Conservancy District, what that would take if there's a possible for temporary land use with them, if there's an opportunity for any matting, metal plating, talking with the city about the contract with the specifics, looking to see the softball updates, what that would cost, to get that done sooner rather than later.
Yeah, well, the softball, yes, looking at the temporary, yes, but the architect and things like that, that would need to come to the board, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Just getting us some additional information.
yes, I can get the information on how much it would cost the architect to do all that. There's really not much to the conservancy, it's just, hey,
We have to
it's
file.
really the architect
Okay.
that we'd have to enter a contract with for them. So we could get an estimate, and then we, based on the timing of the board, we could put it out for approval. A bid, or RFP, then RFQ for things.
And that would be funded via the general
General
fund?
fund.
That'd have to be funded by.
And for within the next 2 weeks, we need to get some communication together to go along with possibly
Correct.
with the expectations and beginning of school communications regarding
Correct.
safety.
I think that's immediate, that communication piece on our website, through the newsletters, in the news. I mean, I think we just need to be very proactive and communicate.
Social outlets where people live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, did I capture, or for the most part? Okay. Sorry about that.
No,
Thank
that's
you for
okay.
that
So
conversation.
So it kind of leads us into the event expectations,
Yes.
because I think because of the not easily traversed, this becomes even more of an issue of safety with kids, families, and safety for everybody. So I know I sent some things out that were a lot broader, looking at maybe what's doable and staffing-wise and resource-wise. We've kind of pared it down to just kind of doing it for varsity football, because that's really the biggest number right now. We can adjust for basketball or things like that if need be, but I put some draft football games where, again, you have to have a ticket to come into the game. We're not going to have general admission, because when general admission happens, nobody's looking at the gate. You have people coming in, and adults and kids that nobody's checking, nobody's aware of. So we want to limit that piece. If you want to come in after halftime, you still have to have a ticket. We'll just have a smaller gate. We'd probably have security there just taking online ticket sales for that.
Just for clarification, they'll still be able to buy a ticket as they enter.
Prior to halftime.
Yeah,
You can buy
but
cash
yeah,
they can
okay.
they can still do the QR code
Cool.
and get a ticket to get in after
Gotcha.
halftime.
Just making sure.
We would look at, again, we talked about bags before. We're thinking that's still a problem, but we just say we can search it, but no food containers, no drink containers, nothing that gets in. We know that there's times where stuff is being brought in that shouldn't be brought in, and we need to make sure we're providing, again, a good experience for everyone. Making sure kids are not running around the horseplay throwing. Again, I don't think they're necessarily causing problems. It's just when there's so many people there, it is a problem with safety and people getting hit or run into. Just trying to get from the ticket booth to their seats with that area is tough. So really keeping an eye and keeping control of those areas, so again, people can come and go as need be safely. Nobody wants to see anybody be injured or have a problem there. So those are, it's kind of scaled down on those expectations. But I think they're all reasonable pieces. Again, trying to keep the restrooms and concourse, it's again for easy access for everybody, because some people need a little more, and then with the unevenness of things, I want to make sure that they're not bothered or spooked or anything getting to and from places. That they need their concentration to get where they need to go safely. But those are the biggest ones, and again, common sense, I think, in regards to, and again, most of these are stuff that other school districts utilize. But in that confined space, we need to make sure we're presenting a great experience for community and spectators too.
Questions regarding this? I have one to start. The security for, at the additional security,
Yep.
where would that funding, is that in, through athletics? Is that through our
It'd be general funds.
general funds?
Yeah.
Okay. And how,
We'd look to have a couple people there from probably 6 to 10, and I've reached out to places to get
quotes?
quotes
Okay.
and what they do. So
Okay.
we're looking at various options for that. The police are still going to be there. We have that contract. This is not for them to look through people's bags and things like that.
Right.
That's more of a legal issue. We want to make sure that, and it's probably, we have security that handles that on a mostly understanding on a daily basis, but it's not a police matter.
What else?
The only,
Go ahead.
the only one I was seeing is the no reentry permitted once they leave the event venue.
Mhm.
I feel like that should be amended to be without the ticket or the stub or whatnot, just because I know, or stamp or something, just because I know circumstances where they'll have to run something out the car, or if they're not allowed to bring bags in, possibly going out and changing a kid or something like that, and then if they won't be allowed reentry, I think that's a little bit too strict.
I think just like we do with students, for dances and things like that, they could get, we may walk them out to the car and bring them back, or let them, one person go so we can keep track of it. To have an open door that anybody comes and goes, I think is not the safest way to deal with things. And then who uses the tickets, that's another piece of just monitoring the entry piece. I mean, we're not talking about, we talked about this, it's not like you're coming to a freshman JV and varsity game. You're there for a couple hours. I understand people, but in the past, people go out to their cars and do stuff that they shouldn't be doing and come back into the event. We want to limit that piece of tailgating and things like that coming back into the game. That's where we see issues and issues with students and adults, for that matter.
I prefer seeing an incremental approach, because right now we have kind of the gates open a little bit wider. If we do just limit that entry to that point, and then you have, if you see a group of 6 people going out, like obviously that's going to be a problem, but just doing like the stamped hand re-entry to start out with, and then if we continue to see problems of people going out doing things they shouldn't and coming back, then we can tighten it, but it's easier to do that than come in and say you're not allowed to leave. I can just see that becoming a problem.
I think we want to have some control over that and not just let it be everywhere. Somebody wants to say, hey, I need to run out to my car for this. Go in, come back, yep, we know who it is and what's going on, versus an open door, anybody comes and goes.
Yeah, I don't think.
We're gonna have to see how this goes, because it is gonna be
Yeah.
something new, and monitoring. I guess, I'm open to those things. I wanna make sure that the purpose of safety and things like that doesn't go out the door, so to speak.
I don't think Lydia was saying leave it wide open. I think like after a certain amount of time, that back gate next to the parking lot would be the most appropriate. Just having like that be really secure, and if somebody needed to go out, maybe start with a stamp if we had a paid, whatever it might be. And then obviously if security's there, they can keep track of how long somebody's been. I don't know. I just think that
If
sometimes,
something's smelling like
yeah,
something, then
yeah. I don't know. I think we just need to show, I'm not saying that this is not great, but for some, maybe a little bit of grace if it's a medical issue or, yeah, so things like that. So.
Yeah.
So some people may want to leave to smoke or to vape, right? That happens. So, and I'm not saying yes or no to that. I'm just saying I
It's
I
reality.
anticipate that's gonna come up. So this, as it's written now, would say, if you wanna leave, and then you can pay to come back in if you really wanna pay to come back in. Is that part of what we're saying? And again, I'm not for or against it, I just think it's a reality of it. We're gonna get questions about that.
What do other districts
The
do?
districts there's districts that say no entry at all.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, there's some that have entry, right? It's really, what's the level of control that you want to have on attendance at events? And my feeling is, again, it's not an all-day event. It's a whole different piece. But I think there needs to be some control over who's coming and going and making sure we're aware of those things happening. A stamp, a paid something, some type of notification may be viable. But if everybody wants to go out,
Yeah.
you're
Then
not
we're
gonna-
defeating
you're not
the
gonna be able-
purpose.
You're not
Right,
gonna
right.
keep track of it, so.
Or if we could maybe rephrase it and say re-entry at the discretion of the event venue, that way it leaves it open to, at the venue, you can make it the stamping roll, or at that moment you can say, we're not doing re-entry tonight. Just it gives a little bit more flexibility for the policy.
Yeah.
I like that.
When I talked with Aaron, I said that I think personally, I think the biggest problem is gonna be the supervision of children
Absolutely.
under sixth grade, because it's become kind of a thing at the football games, that the kids are allowed to run all over, and it's kind of a thing that they look forward to, you know, going to the football game, and they don't have to be with their parents. So I think, personally, I think that's gonna be the biggest pushback, especially students in grades 4 to 6. And I think the way I'm reading is that any student under grade 6 can't even come to the gate unless they're with a parent. Is that correct?
That's the way it is, yes.
Okay.
I know a lot of swimming pools do that. Like, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying I don't disagree. I agree with it. I just think it's gonna be some pushback. It's gonna be a learning curve, and it's gonna be a change of practice. But,
When is the first home football game? I'm just curious.
22nd, I think, is the actual first game, I believe.
That's a Saturday.
That's the 21st then.
So,
I think with anything,
communication.
the first 3 games are gonna be the hardest.
Yeah.
After that, it's gonna be, people are gonna be used to it. They're gonna understand like what the new expectations are. But it'll be difficult the first few games, for sure, 2 to 3 games. And I was gonna say exactly what you said, Cindy. I think that supervising the kids' activity is gonna be, I don't want that job. I'll just say that. That would not be a job I'd sign up for, because it's chaotic. There's a ton of kids, and I think some of the parents are happy to just get there and get a little bit of a break from them and let them run wild while they get to sit and enjoy a game. And that's what has been culturally acceptable so far. So there are things we're taking away, but to provide a little bit of a counterpoint to what has been said, I think I would align with coming in more strict and backing off later. Because I think that when you come in and you try to come in with half measures, I agree with, we need to show some grace for somebody who has a child who maybe had an accident, they gotta go out to the car and change them. Like, things like that are totally understandable. But in general, I think it sets the tone the right way whenever you come in a little bit harder and then you're able to back off. Because I think when you come in soft and then you try to go harder later because the issue is still not resolved, that goes even worse. So I think if you go almost to the extreme with it, and then once the majority of the issues are sort of handled and controllable and all of that, then you can say, all right, this might have been a little bit excessive, we can go back to the stamp system or do whatever. But personally, I think when you're dealing with an issue of this magnitude, I think you have to go farther sooner, and then I think you have the luxury of backing off. It's gonna be a cultural shock either way. So you might as well let it be a shock in a way that is, you know, we have very clear and firm guidelines. And they're easy to follow. There's not a lot of nuance to them. It's very much like, this is the rule. If you don't want to comply, we're sorry, but you have to pay to get back in or whatever. I think it's easier to do that and then determine how we're going to back off from there rather than trying to take half measures towards that. Just my opinion on that.
You're right. You're not wrong. That's what we say in education. Start off stricter and then ease up.
But if I'm hearing that the kids are the problem, I don't think they're the ones running out to the car, and you say it's the problem of this magnitude, how many people are running out to their cars and doing things that really we don't want them to be doing and coming back in? Because if it's a magnitude issue, that to me says 10% of the population. I doubt it's that high. And then I hadn't even thought about what Katie brought up with the smoking. And I'll go one step further. I am vehemently against smoking personally, but it is not my business to tell someone that they can't go outside, and I appreciate that they're not going to try to do that around the students. So that's, I hadn't even thought about that, but that's why it's are we granting permission to people to go smoke then? Because that feels a little telling people what to do with their body, which.
Yeah.
Well, it's either on the property that we are responsible for, or it's not.
Right, well, they can't be in the stadium.
Correct.
So, period. So that takes care of that. They have to be outside the gate, whether or not we, have a
Is there
specific
smoking allowed
area.
in the city parks?
Yeah,
But not at our,
within the confines.
our area. The
But I
football
mean,
stadium.
even like the baseball fields or the basketball courts or the swimming pool, is there smoking allowed?
Yep.
There is. So it could become a nightmare of supervision too. We don't want it to become a supervision football game. We want it to be a football game, to enjoyable place to go. So,
I think communication, I think it's a cultural change. I mean, we're gonna get pushback. It's always been done this way. It's always been done this way. I get it. But right now, we have a legal issue happening at that stadium. If those kids are running around and somebody trips and falls because they're underneath their feet, or I don't even know, my brain cannot go there. This is being married to an attorney freaks me out. I don't want somebody to be endangered and to not be able to come enjoy the game. So maybe you're right, Kyle. Maybe we've got to go strict at the beginning if they need to go. I'm not telling anyone what they can and cannot do with their body, but maybe this is if you feel that you need to, it's got to be far enough away from the stadium because, the smoke blowing in and wherever that might be. I don't know. Where is that area? Do we have to have more security at the beginning until this becomes more practiced? Obviously, communication, signage. School will have started. It's a great time to pull the kids in and say, this is how we act at a football game. This is what we do.
And then if I can ask Erin, I just want to pick your brain for a second, kind of how this last football game I went to, madness, and just kind of how you're visualizing if you see the kids kind of bifurcated into their groups of you're under third grade, you're not allowed to be doing X, Y, Z. With that volume of kids, how are you envisioning this going? Just curious.
I think it's going to be tough at first, but I think it's going to have to communicate it to the kids and to the parents. And unfortunately, the kids and the adults need to comply with what the expectations are. I don't know if anybody's really held some things accountable.
Do you anticipate taking the kids to their parents? Is that kind of how
Yeah.
Okay.
I expect those things to happen. I mean, there's little kids and the parents are 10 feet away, but the little kids are throwing rocks around at people. Not to be mean, they see
Picking
some
up
picking up
stuff.
stuff and throwing it. It's like telling them no, and then it doesn't, and then you gotta bring to the parent and say, this is what's going on.
I was there and a kid had on those gym shoes with roller skates in them. And it was like he was on a skateboard,
So, like I said, that what everybody's described is it just needs to be toned down. The student, but the adult, we're here to support
The team.
the team.
Yes.
And I think that's reasonable. These are reasonable expectations to make it a positive piece, because again, I know there's a few that won't come there because it's too chaotic. Or maybe can't come in, don't want to come into the facility because of that. I think we need to make it a place for everybody to be. So, I'll look at maybe rewording that, the no reentry piece, and we'll send it out, but we'll start getting the communication out to everybody and see what we can do to make this a safer place for everybody. Katie?
Yeah, last question. Will you have water available? So if we're not allowing outside water, will we have water available for people?
Can, that's something that, there are some I believe there's a drinking
There's
fountain up there, but we
yeah.
could look at that.
Especially the first 2 games that are tend to be hot.
Yeah.
Because we're saying you can buy water in there, but you can't bring a lot of water.
And we're talking about just, that's something like, if somebody had a water bottle, they wanted to fill up their water, we'd say,
Yeah.
okay, let's check and make sure there's nothing in there.
All they have to do is dump
Dump
it,
it out.
and then they can come in
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
yeah.
Kind of like the airport.
Yeah.
Airport, NFL game, I mean, I don't know. Concerts, I was just at Schuster Center. They
Well,
checked,
at school, we don't
I
allow
mean-
the children to not be supervised.
correct.
You know, teachers can't even leave the room to go use the restroom. So, you know, children should be supervised at all times, you know, at certain ages.
Again, I think this is gonna be a big communication piece. Multiple routes of communication, very clear, visual, modeled at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
Have we talked about Liz, have we talked to Liz about this?
Yes, she's aware of it, and we have ideas, and we'll get some stuff out, and we may have to do some stuff with kids at the beginning of the year, before the first game and things like that,
Yeah.
during the school's in session, so.
Okay. And then after the end of the season, maybe we
We'll reevaluate.
we'll
what's going on.
reevaluate,
Yeah,
get some feedback, you know, there's a lot of things that we can do.
yeah.
All right, the next topic, and under the discussion items is the substitute teacher pilot program, for discussion, and you can see in public comment, the district did pilot, the substitute pilot program during the 25-26 school year to expand substitute staffing capacity in grades K through 5. The kind of proposal to talk about is the expansion to grades K through 8 based on the success of that pilot and the continued need to maintain reliable classroom coverage during staff absences. All candidates must meet applicable state of Ohio licensure requirements, complete required FBI and BCI background checks, complete district provided training, and be approved through the district procedures prior to before placement. Extended assignments will be brought to the board for approval when required. Substitute costs will continue to follow the board approved substitute rate structure and will be incurred only when substitutes are used. And so you can see the pilot proposal is attached in there. And Mr. Moran, I'll turn it over if you want to add anything specifically for us to take note of.
We had, I think, 8 people that participated in the K through 5 programming, and they were hugely needed to get through some days. They were very good, positive feedback from principals from the elementary. They were requested, and actually a couple of them are now going to be working full-time for us in different positions. As aides, even I think with a secretary that was doing that. So I think it's an opportunity to expand our pool to grades 6 through 8. That, again, we still need substitutes. It is still a needed piece. Typically, they wouldn't be I don't see them being needed for a long-term sub as having the ability, but depending on their background, who knows, right? But that's not typically what we've looked for. These are for short-term, 1 or 2 days, and could be for, in the same building for multiple days, but for different teachers. So short-term with individual teachers has been the experience, and again, it's been positive. They still have they go through the training with myself. They talk to the office. They meet with aides, and they get a feel for what it is. And I think opening up to 612 is an area of high, particularly 612 is a higher need of substitutes. There's not as many at that level. It was reversed and now it's changed, so there's a bigger pool. So if we could have some to help fill some spots in the 6-8, I think it'd be good. And there are, as you said, there's some age requirements as well with that.
With being successful at the current level that we've deployed it now, is there a reason why we wouldn't consider just going 6 through 12?
Right now, I think the age piece at the high school level is maybe a little concerning to me.
Sure.
If they haven't been in an education setting, if they've been in a, maybe the experience will change that, but I'm worried about not having educational experience and then going into that without that maturity.
Gotcha.
And that could be different for everybody. I understand that, but I think that's not a bridge I want to cross right now. I'd like to see how it went with 6th through 8th grade before looking
Expand it
to
there.
expand. And if next year it says it, I'd say let's change the policy to allow it to be, change the whole policy.
That makes sense.
And in here, it says age 20 to 24, be enrolled in the educator prep program or have attained a bachelor's degree. With CCP right now, I know kids that are 20 and 21 that have a bachelor's degree. And so, I mean, obviously Chelsea is our sub-caller. I think she would have the wherewithal to make that decision and even not, maybe not put a 20-year-old at the high school just yet. So.
Yeah, for sure.
So the bachelor's degree requirement, because it says you either must be enrolled in an educator prep program or have just a generic bachelor's degree. I guess I'm trying to understand why you just can't be enrolled in a bachelor's degree program, because say you're in year 3 of just a generic bachelor's degree program, and then you have one more year. Do you see the difference that?
So the education, I'm more willing to have somebody that's looking to be in education to help out with education, because
Right.
they're learning about it, they know about it more right now. That's the reason, that was the thought process on that,
Okay.
on that piece.
Do we require them to take the online pedagogy course?
It depends how far along their process they are.
Okay.
Right? To get in their program, they're gonna have to take it at
Right.
some time, but not everybody's going full-time. Some people
Yeah.
are working and taking classes, or maybe
Well, that's the first step. If
Yeah.
you do alternative pathway to licensure.
they may not be doing an alternative.
Yeah.
Right.
I didn't know what the cost was or anything. If we wanted to offer that, if they wanted or whatnot.
Yeah.
And are they evaluated on it by anyone, especially the long-term stuff? The people that are going into classrooms every once in a while, I'm not concerned about, but say you're there for 4 months. Is there any kind of way to do that?
I think there's not a formal evaluation process. They don't fall into like the teacher evaluation or anything like that, but the principal has a pretty good idea of how things are working or not working
Okay.
in there because of issues that may arise or not arise, and they check. I'd say then they know they have subs in there or things like that. They are checking on those and getting feedback. Secretaries are pretty aware of those things as well.
Okay, and then that's communicated back to Chelsea in this situation?
We have people that have been, not the pilot group, but there have been people we said we declined their services.
Okay. And then is there a re-up process, or is it just as long as you maintain your Ohio substitute teacher licensing and you express interest to stay in?
It's a year-long license, so they have to redo it every year.
And then do they have to reapply in Tipp, or is it just they stay in as long as that license is active?
So we sign off on their license. So
Okay.
they submit, and then we sign off
Okay.
every year, and that's the process.
Okay. Is this kind of like trying to be, because you said some went in were secretaries and some got positions,
Mhm.
are we kind of trying to design this to be a pipeline, for lack of a better word, so that we can kind of test people out and then
No.
see, no, that's
That was
not the purpose?
That was
Oh,
not
okay.
the purpose of it. The purpose.
That'd be
to get
great,
more-
though.
Yeah.
Get more subs,
Okay.
and the guy, one of the persons we trained, and then we had the gentleman then applied for an aide position.
Okay.
He was subbing as an aide already. He's like, well, do teacher too, and then an aide position popped up, and he got that job.
That's awesome.
So,
Especially in the areas of math and science.
yeah.
Math and science. We need teachers. Bad.
I have a question. So in the public content, it says, no, extended assignments will be brought to the board for approval when required. Can you explain what that sentence means?
We do, when we do long-term subs,
Okay,
because they get paid differently, they
Right.
get paid that, we bring that forward
Okay.
typically for long-term sub
so
positions.
we're authorizing the program to include the ability to do long-term subs, but approval for a long-term sub who would be in the pilot program would be on a case-by-case basis. Is that how
Yeah.
to read this?
We look for long-term positions. The principals are looking for people that have experience in those areas. We try to lean on, some people get leaned on pretty heavy because
Mhm.
they do it, they've done it before,
Mhm.
or they're maybe recently retired and come in and help out, so they're leaned on. Those people are hopefully, I shouldn't say hopefully, most of the time, we're trying to be selective about
Right.
long-term positions based on knowledge, content, students, things like that.
Good. I think that is a good outcome for kids that way. So this, what I guess one I want to clarify is we are approving these we're approving this for long-term usage.
It's for any sub position,
Any sub.
but if it were to be long-term, we would bring it forward.
Okay. Good.
A long-term sub position is designated by a number of days in the same position. So let's say a teacher had a baby or something and they were out.
Mhm.
How many days is it they get offered a contract after?
I think it's 30 days.
30 days
And they
in
get
the
put
same
on step
position.
zero.
It's 60.
I was gonna
60.
say, I think it's
I think we
60.
do it sooner than 60.
We have it where the price will go up
Oh.
to after 20 days
Yes.
and after 40 days, but once they make it to 60 days and they have completed those 60 days, they move to step zero on our staff salary schedule, which is higher pay.
And then that's when it would come to us.
Okay. Okay.
And it does not have to be 60 days consistently in a row. If somebody were out, in and out, in and out, in and out, at one teacher in particular, if that substitute keeps coming back for that same teacher and they finally have logged in 60 days, then they would be eligible.
Is that 60 days in, say, over a 5-year period?
1 year.
1 year, okay, I'm just, thank you.
60 teaching days.
60 teaching days, 60 teaching assignments for a whole day for that one position.
So I think what I also hear is that we do have a lack of substitute teachers in the district. So if there is anyone that wants to take a leap into what education is actually like in the classroom, we would welcome you to take that leap this year. So the best way to know is to immerse yourself in that situation. So.
And then just to that end, how do you apply to be a substitute for all the people
Oh,
out there?
love that.
It's online, or contact
Chelsea,
and we can get you started.
okay,
Boom.
love it.
Just
We did
our
not-
information's in
we
public
didn't
contact.
Okay. Anything else, sorry, for the substitute pilot program? Questions, comments, clarifications? Okay. Last in our discussion items this evening is a discussion over the TSEP enrichment program. This was a continuation after the last meeting with the opportunity to have a chance to discuss. And I talked to Aaron when we met, Mr. Moran, when we met, and I just wanted to put some clarification out there after doing some research. And you know, as a board member, but also as a mom who utilized TSEP, you know, I greatly appreciated TSEP when my oldest son participated in the program. He was the first one with, it was a pre-K program leading into Broadway. Mr. G did his graduation. There was like 8 of them. It was a great experience for Jack. Unfortunately, at this time, you know, I feel, and this is just myself, and we'll open it up, that this is not a feasible option until all of our projects that we have committed to are completed. And that could be the 28-29 school year, if not beyond. And there was proper notification that was made. This is a lease, you know, a landlord leasee contract. Happens all the time, especially in some of our even downtown partnerships that we've seen in the buildings. I guess my biggest encouragement would be the leadership of TSEP to potentially commence a group of local community members, county, state officials to help them guide their decisions for what their future would entail for the program. But I feel, again, myself, that the decisions to make a commitment to TSEP to be a part of the district, I feel that it would be too premature to do that until all of the buildings are completed and we even really know what we're working with our properties and things like that. So I think that the recommendation for myself would be that they work together to make plans for TSEP's future in that program. So that is my statement, and so I just wanted to share that, but I will open up. So
I found it helpful in light of the last meeting and having some discussions and getting a better understanding of actually what happened. It was helpful to me to hear the challenges as to why we would not be able to facilitate TSEP at the end of their current agreement.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expand on that a little bit more, just in terms of any kind of space that would be available
Mm-hmm.
from us, lack thereof? The fact that, yes, TSEP is its own independent organization that was leasing space from us, but because of the nature of our construction projects, we're not going to have anything available for them. It's not that we don't want them. It's not that we wouldn't like to be able to facilitate them. It really is not possible.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is the distinguishing feature here. I think there has been a miscommunication that we're kicking them out just because we want to get space back for whatever reason. Has nothing to do with that. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on some of those features, or Aaron, whoever would like to speak to that?
So with the OFC project of the demolition of Broadway and Central, that's going to commence in 2028. So they need to abate all the mercury, all the asbestos, the lead, paint, all that stuff needs to be done. I don't know the time frame for that. We have to put it out for contract to get that done, but they need everybody out in order to do that work. And then they need to demolish the building. So nobody can be in there during that time. When the students get out of that building in December of 2027, they go into the new school. The same thing happens with LT Ball, right? When the kids from LT Ball move over, now we have any abatement work and renovations need to get done into LT Ball, which again becomes a construction site, which cannot have people in there. So how long is that going to take? We don't know. We haven't put plans, like this is, we know we have ideas of what we want to do, redo the gym, things like that, keep things being available, but what to do with the classroom space, we know we need to redo the restrooms, we know we need things like that done. But that would be, that's part of the design and part of our LFI monies that we're gonna have to make decisions on in the next year or so, or maybe less. So all that needs to be finalized before we can have anybody come in, because we need to we want to redo LT Ball with work. that desperately needs it. So
Yeah.
there is not
So it's a timing
district
issue.
space,
Has
yes.
nothing to do with whether or not we would want to facilitate them. Even if we
And
could,
we're-
the timing is not.
We
gonna
are
work
open
out.
and, once we know when LT ball gets done and what we want to do with it, then there could be space available and conversations could be had for anyone, if that's what the board decides it wants to do, is to allow rental space, or, I don't know, maybe in 2 years we have, 1,000 more kids, and then we have to use it for overflow. I don't know. I don't think that's gonna happen. Yeah,
That neighborhood's going in across, I don't know.
so, but those are things that the board will have to determine, but we need to get those places revitalized, renovated,
Yeah.
so it's, those things are taken care of. Because the bathrooms,
Appropriate.
the classrooms, the classrooms were never set up to be 4 classrooms. It was always set up to be that open area, and the more walls you put in, the less the flow, the whole design is not made that way. So is there something that would make sense for us to maybe get rid of some walls, some of those temporary walls, to open it up for additional classroom space? Maybe that's, makes sense. What else?
Well,
would-
I felt like it's important, just publicly, for the community to hear. This is not a choice that we're making intentionally to shut down TSEP or kick them out. They're not our organization. They're an organization that we've leased space to, and that space is no longer going to be available, physically not going to be available. So I think it's just important to describe that in detail so that people understand what's happening. So thank you.
And unfortunately, with the timeline, again, I saw Aaron knock over here with the opening of the new building. I
Yeah.
mean, if something would happen and that would get delayed, I mean, now we're looking at even longer. So, I mean, the earliest would be, I'm thinking 2029 before, we would even,
Just depends.
who knows?
Yeah, depends what all needs to get done to LT ball and abatement wise and revitalization renovations there.
Lydia?
What is the timeline of the repairs on LT? What does that look like, or what are you projecting that to be?
It depends on all what we want to get done or can get done based on the money.
Is this a and/or situation where the stadium or LT, or is this a possibly both, or?
This is part of the LFI, that's
Mhm.
part of the project monies was to demo or to do abate and renovate LT ball.
Right,
There's money set aside for those things right
but that's
now.
why I'm asking the timeline on that, because is it required in this that we have to wait till the building's completed before we start this work, the LFI,
Well,
or is it?
No one
Yes.
could be in the
No,
We
building.
can't have
can't be
kids in
in
the
it.
building.
Correct.
Yes. Until we get kids out of the building, they can't do the work.
But does it all have to be done at once, or can we do like we're doing right now at the high school, where we're doing an incremental approach of part of it gets done when kids are not in the building, either over summers and things like that, and doing parts of the building?
I would say it depends on how much work and how much time is needed to do that work. Like, the high school only has the summers because kids have to be in there.
Right.
I don't know, to say that LT ball, how much abatement they're going through, to find out how much abatement's needed. We're gonna have that report probably in the next month or two, how much on the abatements of all the buildings.
So they're actively looking into, and we'll have a report on,
They should have, yes. I know they're doing, I'm not sure when we get the report, but I think it's a month or two, we should have a report on what all the work needs to be done that will be scoped out for bid. And then we have our own internal, okay, what does it cost, what is it gonna take to redo the restrooms? What is it gonna cost to office space or anything like that, the gym, all those types of things. So that has not been done. A plan hasn't been done for the LT Bowl, that has to be worked on.
okay, what's the timeline on that after you get, in a month or two, get the abatement report, and then,
So then they'll get put out for bid, and then we'll have a better idea how long that work would take.
so we'll know in about 6 months?
I'd say, yeah.
Ish,
We
okay.
probably should know before.
Because I don't think it's responsible to tell TSEP, hey, hold on, we might have a thing, but I also think it's maybe short-sighted to say maybe there's not a lot of abatement that needs to happen. Maybe we get a really good report back that they say there's a lot of functioning parts of the building and we could work over summers so that that's a partnership we could still continue. So I think just right now saying there's not gonna be space for you until 2029, I think that's not taking all the factors into consideration. And so getting that report as soon as possible and then getting that, what needs to be fixed in the building, I think that needs to be pushed up in priority, because it would be nice to know instead of having a building that's fully functioning, sitting empty, like the board office. Because that's the question I keep getting from a lot of, or I know that we're planning to move the board office over there, but that's a lot of feedback is, that's a huge building for just a board office, so what are you guys planning? And not having that timeline, I'm getting a lot of feedback from the community of they're uncomfortable, that they don't know what's gonna happen there, so.
I think those are decisions that, I mean, when we first started going through the building process, it took a long time to look at those plans and keep going, I mean, months to look at those plans. And so, I mean, I think that this is a long process. I think bottom line is that to start the school year next year, not this year, 26, but 27, I mean, I don't know. Do they want to have a half a year at the site that they're currently at? Or, you know, are they looking to proactively find something? I don't know. And again, I go back to Kyle's point. This is, unfortunately, it's not a Tipp City School District program. We don't get to hire the faculty. We don't determine the curriculum. I mean, it's a wonderful service, but it's not ours. Does that make sense?
It's not ours, but I think that we need to maintain those partnerships, and
Correct.
if the partnerships aren't proactively maintained and we say just hold on for 3 or 4 years, we might have some, or 2 or 3 years, we might have something for you. I think that is possibly preemptively burning a bridge, and especially when we don't have those reports, we don't know how much work might need to be done. So I'm just saying, possibly pause that conversation, and not to, like I said, I don't think it's kind to say, don't keep looking for something else, but I also don't think it's kind to say, we're not gonna have anything for you, because we don't know until we get those reports.
And I have no idea what the timeline is. I'm just in my head thinking about this building, and then thinking about availability and things like that. And, you know, maybe they decide to demo the junior high first and then everything else. And then, I mean, I don't know what that timeline is. I have no idea.
The middle
So-
school will be demoed first because it needs to be the parking lot.
Yeah.
That's their first priority after the building is complete.
So I just think bottom line is, if the best that they can do is to try to be proactive and find something in the interim, and then we can see.
Okay, I guess my question then is, do LFI funds, is there any restriction that restricts concurrent work? So we're working on the building currently, but to also work on LT, there's no restrictions on that, correct?
Well, we can only have as much work as what the
Well-
contractor can do, and right now they're stretched thin at both locations.
Okay.
So, and with us not knowing what we're going to be doing with the building completely at this moment, right now it was make it the board office and determine what other usage can be done for it, whether that's a special needs program running out of that building or anything else. It shouldn't be rushed.
But the high school should be wrapped up by the end of summer, before classes start, correct?
Well, that's part, and then they come back next summer.
Correct.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. But that's, the scope of work is managed to get the 10, 11, 12 weeks, whatever it was at the high school. I don't know if that's, I'm not sure how that could be done, if that's what the contractor will do either, you know. We have a lot of work to figure out with LT Ball, but I think it's an opportunity to think differently and what else we could utilize in the district for resources, for kids, for community even. And I think once we decide on those plans, then we'll know the timeline of what that is.
I like the statement you made. Let's future-proof it. Let's make decisions that are in our best interest in the long term. And I think we won't know what that is yet, but I like the idea of being able to say, thinking 10 years from now, what's gonna be a facility that works best for our kids in our district? And we may walk our way back to, hey, this space also works for somebody else too, but, I don't wanna sacrifice having a great space for having a good space that we rush to get done.
Well, to your point, and to your point, you joke about 1,000 extra kids. We don't know what kind of development is gonna happen here in the next few years. We don't know if Amazon's gonna decide to put another plant somewhere nearby. And then we have to have 4 new neighborhoods that are built. I mean, we don't know. And so to have the ability to renovate a space like LT Ball, to be able to facilitate where we might, it may not be a PK through 8 building forever. If we have that many extra kids that may have to go, kindergarten through 4th grade, and we might have to have 5th through 8th,
Yeah.
there's a million possibilities, but at the end of the day, yes, I think that's the leading thought is we have to think generationally. I don't think we have the luxury of thinking just a couple years down the road.
So we know for sure that they will not have access to space on our campus for, the spring 2027, is that correct? So December 31st, they're out.
2020, yes.
Right.
28.
26, right there. I'm
27.
sorry, 27, wrong
Yes.
year. That's
Yes.
December
how rumors
27th.
get started.
Yeah.
Right. And then there is for sure a period of time where we're doing some kind of abatement where we were going to need to renovate.
Best guess, yes, that's with the information we have, because to get to what needs to be done
Okay.
would be that.
To your knowledge, what does need to be done in LT, just as a walkthrough? I'm assuming they gave you some sort of just verbal feedback of things that might need to be.
I'd have to look at the COCA that they put together. I think they put some information on there. But I don't know how well they looked into abatement, because I don't think they opened up stuff to check into things potentially. But I know they've got money designated for abatement at the building. I can get that information.
If you don't
for
mind,
you.
just so I can look at that.
Anything else? Okay. All right. With that being said, I need a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
All motion.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And is there a second?
A second?
Thank you. And Mr. Stevens, can you call the vote, please?
Thompson?
Yes.
Wyman?
Yes.
Dillard?
Yes.
Ernst?
Yes.
McMurray?
Yes. And it is 6:24, and the working session for July 27th is adjourned.